Welcome for this practice. We're going to be really exploring the first 4 Yoga Sutras, and I'd like you to understand those in an embodied way. So I'll be helping you to sense this larger presence or benevolence, this grace or consciousness from which we have come, and from which most of us are separated by the distractions of daily life, but we can return to or reunite with that. And then the question becomes, how do we live from there? And I'll pose some ideas about that towards the end of the practice. But in the meantime, let's get into the practice. I'll see you there. And oh, don't forget, questions and comments go down below, and you can hit the like button or subscribe to the channel. All of that is very helpful to us. And I'll see you for class. Thank you. Welcome for yoga practice. This morning, we're going to be exploring how we use yoga as a yoga therapy or yoga psychology, not only as a physical medicine practice. And if you look at the teachings in yoga, like in the Yoga Sutras, you actually see that they're pretty progressive. It moves in a linear discussion, Yoga Sutra to Yoga Sutra. In the first pada, we're learning about the nature of our minds and the opportunities that we have to either suffer with this kind of mind thing that we have, or to free ourselves from that suffering. In the very first part of the sutras, we learn what is yoga. And so I'll be talking about that after we have a little meditative period here. But I'd like you to keep in mind that yoga is much bigger even than Yoga Sutras can contain. It's only one text from the huge wealth of knowledge and grace that yoga is. So let's take a comfortable seat to get started, and you can rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. Invite your body to be comfortably seated so that settling into your body, you might rock a little side to side, or, just check and see if you feel like you're in your plumb line or in your center. Let it be comfortable enough that you're not distracted by your physical body when you're coming into meditation. When you invite your mind to come to meditation, of course, you'll observe what happens. And I'm going to recommend you observe it as if you're watching a sitcom or maybe a news show or maybe a comedy. You're observing it going by rather than getting caught up in it. A meditative technique you can use is imagine that you're sitting right now on the bank of a river. The river is going by. And even if something really interesting comes downstream in the river, or something less interesting, maybe a dried leaf or a twig, even if something comes downstream, when we're in meditative mode, we don't reach into the river to pick it up. We allow it to go on by. As the river goes by, and imagine a little more distance or space between the objects in the river, or perhaps that the current of the river becomes more rhythmic, and you're less and less inclined to dip in with the mind to the river stuff that's going by. Now gently lift the base of your skull and slide the base of your skull or the bottom of your earlobes just slightly back so your head will move into alignment over the top of your spine. And then imagine what sits behind you is this presence that is providing you with the capacity you have for attention. And I invite you to have your attention rest there on the source of attention itself. It was the Sufi poet Rumi who said in one of his poems, "Who is it that sees through my eyes? What is it that hears through my ears?" You can imagine those kinds of questions. What is it that gives you the capacity for attention? That's gifted you with this ability to have a desire to know yourself. We'll imagine that when we move our attention back, we're kind of going into the background or the backdrop of this large presence. When we become aware of the body, the breath, our senses, we're right here in the present. When we place our attention to the river and the stuff going by, we're going to call that the foreground, that which is in front of us. So notice for yourself if you rest attention again on the foreground or the river of thoughts, what changes? What are the qualities of bringing attention here? What happens in your body when you rest your attention on the river that's going by? Even though you're not tangling up in it, what happens in your body? If you travel through your body and your breath and move into the background again, that sense that there's this enormous backdrop of consciousness and grace that has granted you the ability to pay attention. That consciousness has also granted you the desire, the burning desire to know thyself, to know who and what you are. So giving yourself this miniature exploration, now take note of how it's been and please raise your hands to your heart. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. You may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands. Open your eyes. So in the Yoga Sutras, in the first portion of the Yoga Sutras, we learn what yoga is. First, Patanjali says to us, Atta yoganusasanam. Atta yoganusasanam. Atta means now, and now we're going to embark. So we have several Dharma talks about this particular sutra and the other sutras I'll talk about today. And those Dharma talks are all on the YouTube channel. But we say, and now we're going to embark on the discussion. But we also say, implied in there is, now, after all of this in our life, after all of this difficulty, after all of this suffering, after all of this confusion, after all of this desire to know something about ourselves or to not be in mayhem, after all of this research or study or conversation, now the yoga begins. So it wasn't just like we stumble in from some alleyway, open a door, and now yoga begins, hither and thither. It's like, in some ways, the difficulties that we have faced have asked us, prepared us, in fact, to come to these moments of like, okay, what else is there? And what can I learn? So yoga opens the book there, the Yoga Sutras, with Atta Yoganusasanam. Atta Yoganusasanam. So we can say thank you to the suffering that we have had. Without it, we might not be inclined to know ourselves. So, some appreciation, even though, of course, we don't want to be glib about that. Different kinds of suffering are extremely painful and deserve our fullest respect and appreciation. Nor do we speak glibly to others about such things. So the second Yoga Sutra tells us then, okay, what is yoga? Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. You can just make the words and the sounds so you're getting a sense of like, oh, yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And you may remember the sentence that way better. It means yoga is the experience of what happens when the chitta vrittis come to cease. That is, when the fluctuations, the vrittis of the mind have abated. And then there we are, reflecting on our nature, our inherent nature, and not getting confused about all the stuff going by in the river of the mind. So we say, Atta Yoganusasanam. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And that gives us a sense, what is yoga? Right? And then we say, Drastu Svarupe Avastanam. When we can see clearly, Drastu Svarupe, our inner nature, is actually quite blissful. And when we are established in that, now we are having the yoga. So avastanam, vastanam is established in. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Drastu svarupe avastanam. Let's get established in it. And what we're establishing ourselves in is that backdrop that I talked about during meditation. Can we know that backdrop? Right? And from that place, we are not then in denial that stuff is going by in our river and needs our attention, but from that place, when we tend to the things, that are in this river of our life and need our understanding or inquiry, when we tend to those things, we do it with a much more compassionate, holistic, benevolent perspective. And I have found that it means that we suffer for shorter durations, and our kind of transformation or understanding is expedited because we have this larger view. So that's all you need to know. Class is dismissed. Just kidding, of course. Let's put it in the body, because while we might know it, we might get a sense of it, it's really hard to know it if we're still carrying with us all the residue of daily life. So we still can still feel some of that stuff moving through us. Okay, so let's shake out your legs for those who need to do so. And when you are ready to, then put the soles of your feet together in Baddha Konasana. So you can take the legs out and shake them out if you need to. I know we don't all sit cross-legged on the floor for long periods of time. This was only 20 minutes, so it wasn't a huge long period of time, but take a seat in Baddha Konasana now, and let's go ahead and hold on to the big toes, or you can hold on to your feet or your ankles. If you've got longer arms, it might be helpful to hold on to your ankles right now, but you could start with the toe. Okay, roll the pubic bone down, lift your chest and your heart, open your throat, breathe in, and then exhale and round your spine. So you're going to bring the tailbone forward towards the pubic bone, bring your chin down in towards your throat. Inhale, roll forward. Exhale, roll in and down, moving back with the navel towards your spine. And continue for 5 breath cycles. So you may not have a lot of range of motion. You can breathe into the range of motion that you have. And really practice synchronizing your breath and your body. So there's a harmonizing. And then your mind, your breath, your body, they all begin to exist together more simultaneously. And then roll yourself up to your tall seat with an inhale. And now keeping the chest and heart stable, if you're now feeling limber enough to hold on to your ankles, go ahead and do so. Press your ankles down, firmly fix your hands, and then lift your chin straight up with the inhalation. And then rotate your left ear towards your left shoulder. You're going to have some muscles on the right side of your neck that might be stiff or sore. Keep the chest and heart lifted up. So we're really just rotating the head. Let's go back up to center with the chin. Exhale, bring your right ear down towards your right shoulder. The reason we're holding the ankles is to keep the arms taut. So lift up through the spine. And then bring your chin back up to center. And now exhale, gaze to your right and down towards your right shoulder. Inhale, gaze right and come back up. Exhale, gaze left and down past your left shoulder towards the floor. And then inhale, gaze left and up. Once more, turn your left ear down towards your left shoulder. Inhale your chin up to center. And exhale your right ear down towards your right shoulder. And then inhale up to center. And exhale to release. You fold your right knee up towards the center of your chest and take the left leg out straight. So when you lengthen your left leg forward, go ahead and point the toes straight up. Keep the left knee also pointing up. Wrap your left hand around your right shin. Walk the right hand around behind you. Now we're going to start by gazing first forward. So even though you're twisting to your right, go ahead and gaze forward and use this position for your inhale. And then exhale, rotate your head to your right. Inhale, rotate only your head back to your left. Maybe look past your left shoulder. Exhale, turn your head to your right. You might deepen the twist from the low belly to the mid-torso up to your eyes. Inhale, glide your head to your left. Exhale, going to the right. Now, as you continue, we're going to do it about 3 more breath cycles. Try to use the eyes on purpose. So as you're rotating your head, try to maintain your eyes actually taking in the surroundings. See if when you inhale and you glide your gaze to your left, you go through those surroundings with a smooth gaze, but you're not attached to any one of the items that you see. Inhale again as you glide your head to your left, look over your left shoulder. And then last time, exhale, rotate your head to your right with a smooth gaze, noticing but not grasping onto any one object in your room. And then rotate back to center, and let's take the left knee up and the right knee out. Bring your right hand across to your left shin. Take the left fingertips behind you. Go ahead and establish your twist to your left while you're gazing straight on. Okay, and then breathing in. Exhale, rotate your head to your left and see if you can maintain that practice with the gaze right up. So as you inhale, turn your head to your right, steadying your gaze on the horizon. And as you exhale, glide your head to your left again without grasping for any object that you see. And even as you move your head and your eyes see these objects, don't even attach a story to the object. Make your primary focus is on your breath and your body, and just noticing that the eyes have this capacity, but you're not really even narrating your experience to yourself, nor to anyone else. And then after your next exhale, go ahead and come back around to face forward. Cross your ankles. Okay. Close your eyes. And check in with the quality of your mind. Okay, now let's cross the ankles kind of snugly. So what you're going to have is that when you cross the ankles, the shins are going to be closer to each other. The feet are closer to each other. Or rather, am I saying that right? Because when we go like this, the feet are really close to each other. But what I want is for your knees to be more narrow like this. Sukhasana is the name of the pose. Bring the back of your left hand around the outside of your right thigh. And if possible, hold onto the toes of your left foot. Right? So it's right there, left hand to left foot, if you can reach them. And then lift up with your chest and heart. Rotate to your right, walk your right fingertips behind you. Try to keep your pelvis stable. So the pelvis is going to be a stable base, and then we're rotating the spine and the inner body to the right. Okay, this time, turn your head to your right with the eyes closed. And during your exhale, keep your eyes closed, but move your gaze farther to the right than your head was able to go. During the inhale, relax that effort. So exhale, glide your gaze to the right a little farther. Eyelids are closed. Inhale, relax your gaze. Eyelids are closed. Exhale, glide to the right with your gaze. Inhale, relax the gaze. Eyelids are closed. Do that one more time. And then exhale, come around to face forward, keeping the eyes closed. Notice what is the quality of your mind, having been where you were. You are addressing your vagus nerve with these practices, so this isn't just finger painting on Saturday morning. It's a deliberate practice for your vagus nerve. Let's take the back of your right hand around the outside of your left thigh. If you can hold on to your big toe there. The purpose of holding onto the foot is to you have this kind of connection or bracing. We call it something the closed chain. You also then, when you pull up with the chest and the heart, your hand's going to stay where it is, and I'd like you to lift up so you're also feeling this opening in the side of your neck. Walk the left hand behind you. Okay, turn your head to your left, and we'll do this internal gaze process for 5 breath cycles. So on the exhale, gaze further to your left, eyes closed. With your inhale, the eyes can be relaxed but still closed. When you have completed 5 breath cycles like that, keep your eyes closed and come back around to center. And then rest your attention in that enormous backdrop behind you. Notice what it's like to place your awareness in that larger presence behind you immediately after the yoga pose. Okay, we'll do one more in this series. This is a little series of twists, and we're activating different parts of your body, but really focusing in on vagal tone as well. So I'd like you to take the blanket that you're sitting on and please come to kneeling. So that when you're kneeling, you're going to put your left hip on the blanket. So like this. And your feet then go on the right side. Let me just check because I'm mirroring you guys. Yeah, we'll go this way. There's a pose we do go on the other side too, and so we'll check them both out this morning. So when you put the knees here, let's go ahead and have them like next to each other. They're not going to be symmetrical because your feet are back behind you. You can point the toes behind you so the ankles don't feel disrupted. Okay, let's bring both hands over to the outside of the right shin and the right foot. Okay, inhale, lift your chest and heart. And then we're going to rotate, and this time we're going to be gazing down and back to the right. And let's keep the position of the twist for the body. And as you inhale, gaze up and to your left. And then exhale and make a diagonal as you gaze down and back to your right. Inhale, glide on the diagonal up and to your left, eyes open. Exhale, glide down and back to your right. Do that one more time. And twist down and across to your right. Rotate around to face forward. Okay, come forward to your hands and knees. Switch your feet to the other side, switch your hips to the other side, and then touch your right hip down to the blanket. Okay, so turn to your left. You can hold the outside of your shin with your right hand. With your left hand, hold your left foot. Gaze down and back to the left. So your head is in a little bit of flexion there, and the chin comes towards your left collarbone. And then inhale, make a diagonal gaze up and to the right, eyes open. Exhale, glide down. And as you gaze back on the floor to the left, notice again that you can have a really smooth gaze as you continue. And you'll see things in your environment, but you're not picking any one of them up. mentally, emotionally, or physically. So as you gaze up and to the right, make it a smooth line, not a jaggedy dotted line with the eyes. Same thing as you're coming down and back to your left. And do that one more time, please. No sense of rushing, because the pace that we're going at is not numbers of repetitions. We're trying to make it like super efficient and quick, but actually moving slowly and smoothly. So come to face forward. And sense the influence you're having on your body, even in the subtle body. And now we're going to stay with the right hip on the blanket as you are. So just showing your right hip is still on the blanket. This time, take the back of your left hand, and this brings all the twists together. Take the back of your left hand around the outside of your right thigh. If possible, slip your fingers down to the floor there, under your shin, and try to keep that there. Sometimes it helps to use your hand to support that to stay there. Side bend to your left. And let the side bend be relatively complete, even your head gets to go. A little bit of a twist to your right with the upper chest, upper back, and shoulder. And then inhale, sweep your right arm past your right ear. And then we're going to practice here on the inhale that you fill up the right hemisphere of the body, right? And on the exhale, naturally the body gets a little bit deflated because the breath is leaving. And so your twist during the exhale and your side bend might both deepen. But on the inhale, you might feel like you're going to get a little bit pulled out of it, kind of like a wave in the ocean. A gentle rising up, and then a gentle descending. On this next inhale, raise up all the way. Walk your right hand to your blanket behind you and twist to your right. And then release to face forward. Pause. Let your attention go immediately towards that backdrop, that enormous presence. And we're going to change sides. As you change sides, then put your left hip on the blanket. The knees are not going to be symmetrical. They'll just be as they are because of the shape of the pose. Bring the back of your right hand to the outside of your left thigh. If possible, slide your fingers under there. You can hold it firmly with your left hand to support your right hand to stay as you make your little side bend to your right. And then add a little twist to your left. Roll the left shoulder back. And then raise your left arm. We're going to go up overhead. And now again, with the inhale, you want to sense this little bit of an ocean current, and the exhale, a little bit of release. Each time that you release, let the exhale be relatively complete, so you're not grasping for the inhale. Relatively complete means you're not forcing the end of the exhale, but you are enjoying it. And then with your next inhalation, as you prepare for that, let's inhale, rise up. And then we're going to exhale and twist to the left. Turn your right hand over so your palm can face your left thigh. Rotate your heart and your head to your left. And then come around to face forward and pause right there. Let your attention go into that backdrop, right? That enormous backdrop, that presence, the bank of the river. Keep your awareness in the background now. Okay, and then release from this position. Okay, so that is an illustration of a way that you could actually address, and I'm doing this practice seated like this because you can address this in a therapeutic setting. You don't need to have a full yoga setup to do what we were just doing. You could do it in 2 office chairs, 2 counseling chairs, for example, or on a park bench. You could do some of that. You can do it on the ground outside in the grass. It's also addressing your vagus nerve. So through the eyes and the movement of the throat, the head, and the neck, I have a sense that you're bringing some harmony or tone to the vagus nerve so that that gut-brain axis works more healthfully instead of the sense that it's always getting disrupted by the both micro and macro traumas and stressors of daily life. So with what we just did, let's take this now to a miniature restorative yoga, like a little timeout here in the practice. And then we'll come up to standing. But I would like to illustrate that also. So if you take the blanket and fold it length to length, it's going to be like this, and then like this. So you've got a pretty long blanket folded. I would say, the width of my blanket right now is, if I put my hand like that, that's the width of my blanket, more or less. Take that down the length of your yoga mat and sit in front of it, not on it, but in front of it. So there's the edge of my blanket right there. And then when you lean back, you're going to take the very first part of the blanket will touch the top of the sacrum. And then you've got this extra blanket going beyond your head, and most of it you're not going to use. But if you reach right behind your head, underneath your head where the blanket is, make a little inchworm curl so that you made a little curve in the blanket, and it's now going to support the base of your skull completely. You want that to shape to the shape of your neck and support the base of your skull. And you should sense that if you turn your head to your right and to your left, your head does not fall off the blanket, but there is a gentle stretch that can happen there. So once you get all set, I'm going to ask you to let your head roll to the right and to drop down. Feel the left side of your neck there. Roll your head to center and allow it to drop down to your left. Notice the right side of your neck. And then roll your head back to center. Close your eyes. And practice resting now in the background of that an enormous and loving presence that is you, expressing itself through you. As you're resting back in that awareness, the river still goes by, very nearby. Maybe there's trickles of thoughts or sound or memories. And we allow all of that to be flowing by without captivating our attention. Allow yourself to rest really deeply, even though you heard from me that this is a short Shavasana, a mini restorative pose. Allow yourself to give into it quite completely. Now, if you notice what has happened in just a couple minutes of lying still, start to notice the quality of your mind, perhaps a sense of connection with yourself, your what I sometimes call your narrative self, your daily ongoing being self, but also perhaps a sense of that connection to your larger self. And then please bend one knee at a time. As you bend the knees, now raise your arms overhead. And then roll to one side and come up to sitting. All right. So in this process, we just had a little brief Shavasana. And what you might do if you were working with a client at this juncture is they could come into a few moments of meditation and reporting on whatever their experience has been. Perhaps this pieces of this sequence, you may not have the entire sequence for a client, but pieces of the sequence might become really relevant for them to do as they arrive for their next session with you, or to do as homework, to do between sessions, to do for their self-care routine, particularly if there's someone who's been struggling with that stuff that's in the river, because it's going by all the time. There's always options, and sometimes big things are coming in that river, sometimes little bitty interesting twigs, but we can get really captivated by all that is, and then forget this larger resource, which is, like, as I said in a different class, the light bulb that knows that it is not the source of the electricity. Light bulb to lamp, even the lamp is not the source. The cord is not the source. The outlet is not the source. It's going to a much bigger source. And so we also have this bigger source of vitality and consciousness and grace. And therefore they said, Atta yoga nusasanam yoga chitta vritti narodaha. Yoga happens when the mind gets quiet, when it gets out of its own way. Drastu svarupe avastanam. Then we can see ourselves clearly. Okay, so come up to standing now. As you come up to stand, take a wide stance on your mat. I know that at least some of you in this training program are working with students who are wheelchair bound, or who have physical limitations of movement or balance, or may have health conditions for which that seated practice or adaptations of that in a stable chair is going to be accessible to them. And now this practice is built on that practice, and this one may not be the practice that your clients need to do or can do, but we are able to do it. And for those clients you have who can do it, by all means, enjoy giving them this opportunity. But with this wide stance, what we have is what we call a pyramid stance. So your feet are as wide as the length of one of your legs. And then you're going to come down. Let's fold into Prasarita Padottanasana. Bring your fingertips down to the floor, or use a couple of yoga blocks to make the floor closer. Relax the weight of your head and welcome your breathing to deepen. And notice what it's like now to have your head lower than your heart. In the first portion of class, we did not have the head lower than the heart, and we do now. You can picture your torso a little bit like the pendulum on the grandfather clock. And I'm going to ask you to walk your hands over towards your right ankle. If you can, reach your left hand across to hold your right foot or your right ankle, and then slide your torso over towards your right leg. As you come down, this is sort of a forward bend with a side bend. Let's gaze towards the space behind you, please. And find a place where your gaze becomes fixed and stable. And as you keep your eyes on one place, so the mind will be likely to also be more still, start noticing the sensations moving through your body. In fact, as if they were the currents of a river, the sensations will be slightly fluctuating. And none of them needs to have you grasp onto the sensation, nor to narrate the sensation. In fact, you don't even have to name the sensation, you can simply notice it. And then exhale, glide back to center as if you were the grandfather clock. The pendulum comes to center. Walk your right hand now over to your left foot or ankle, and your left hand can go with it as you side bend towards your left leg. Gaze toward the space behind you at whatever angle is quieting and nourishing for your eyes. The point here is that the eyes find a place to be still, and they give that sort of thinking, wandering part of your mind a place to get stable. And as that part of your mind becomes stable, now you're going to be able to have a sense of the movement of energy in your body, perhaps to observe the sensations, but without narrating those sensations. But there are these aspects of mind, like your thinking mind, your narrating mind, your judging mind. Let them all get very still as the eyes become still. And then we have kind of a sensing mind or a feeling mind, and you can feel into the experience of your body. And then exhale, bring your pendulum back to center. Let's place the fingertips beneath the shoulders so you can come up to two relatively straight arms, and now the torso is more or less horizontal to the floor. The standing pose that we were just doing could be adapted to be a wide seated forward bend on the floor if necessary, and this can also be adapted in the same way. So let's place the left hand now between where both hands are and press firmly into your left fingertips. Inhale, twist to your right. Let's try to keep the left arm straight and strong. The power that you put down through your left arm is really the power that motivates and stabilizes your twist. Keep the right hip level with the left hip so you have not sashayed your pelvis to the right. And let's find a place for the eyes to rest once again. So we're asking the thinking mind, the narrating mind, the judging mind to get really still, and to grant you then access to your feeling and sensing mind. You just feel into your experience with your body, with your breath. And then with an exhale, let's come down to center. We'll change sides. Place your right fingertips where your left fingertips were. And please twist open to your left. Keep the right arm stable and strong, and whatever you choose to rest your gaze on, don't start telling yourself a story about it. We're only trying to park the thinking mind, the judging mind, the narrating mind. And feel into the sensing. Invite yourself into your feeling mind. And then as you exhale, come back down to center and relax all aspects of mind and return your attention to that larger backdrop. Walk your hands to your hips and please rise up to standing. When you come up, we're going to go heel, toe, back to center, come to mountain pose. And rest kind of in the back hemisphere of your body. So your body weight can be a little bit more in your heels. Try to sense your back body, your hips, the back of your head, and then that benevolent presence. And let's take a wide stance one more time. When you take the wide stance, we're going to be turning the left foot in pretty strongly. Turn your right foot out directly to the right. This is a good time for some of us to use a block, so I'll demonstrate with that. I can see, yeah, for some of you, go ahead and place the block on the tall setting. And blocks and people who use blocks are 100% welcome. It's totally fine. It's still yoga, right? I had to explain that at the prison when I was first teaching there, and I brought in the yoga mats and the yoga blocks. And, you know, the women didn't question me at the women's facility, but the men were like, we don't need the blocks. We don't need those. But when you use a block to support your pose, you actually get some other nuances to come in. And so we could all use a block this morning. So strengthen both legs. You want to have a sense that even the back leg has purpose. Inhale, sweep your arms wide. Keeping your right leg stable so you're not going to hyperextend your knee. Come down to your right. Let's place the fingertips on the tall block. Raise the left arm up. That's called triangle pose or trikonasana. So press firmly into your right fingertips and let that be the motivation and the stabilization for the twist. You're going to be able to open like that little back bend from the floor-based twist that we did before. Twist the chest and heart open. You may gaze up. And then as you exhale, I'm going to ask you to wrap your left arm back and down and to gaze down. And then inhale, raise your left arm, slide your gaze smoothly on the wall and then the ceiling, opening up. And exhale, bring your left arm down and slide your gaze smoothly down past your right hand, excuse me. And then inhale again to open. Travel smoothly with your gaze. And even as you pass by all those objects in your gaze, none of them right now is intended to captivate your attention or to pull you away. Let's go down one more time with the left arm and with your gaze down to the right. Now we're going to make a little variation. Inhale, raise your left arm, smooth gaze, come up to the ceiling, and sweep your left arm past your left ear. And then exhale and notice the strength of your left leg and the reach of your left arm. And with the next exhale, rise up to standing using your left arm and left leg to come up. Okay, and let's take the block to the other side. So turn your right foot in, And the left toes out. Let's take the right heel slightly back. Okay, good. Inhale, sweep your arms wide. And keeping your right leg strong, left leg is also strong without hyperextending your knee. Come on down. Yeah, press firmly into your left arms. That's a place of stability. It supports your rotation. It's also a place of motivation. So the upper hand is more like a decoration or, like a celebration, but it's not grasping or striving. And then exhale, let's bring the right arm down and follow your gaze smoothly. And inhale to open, smooth gaze. So you're going to go at your own pace here. Try to keep the openness of the whole pose. But what the moving parts include your right arm, your head, your neck, your gaze. It's really helpful to learn to synchronize these things together as well. Let's go up one more time. And then sweep your right arm past your right ear. Notice the strength of your left arm and your left leg. As you exhale, strengthen your right leg and your right arm. And with your next exhale, pull yourself up using your right leg and your right arm. Release, and let's move the block so it's not in the way of your feet. And come back down to Prasarita Padottanasana. And then raise your hands to your hips. We're going to return to mountain pose. So coming up to standing. And as you come up, step your feet to center. You can use the heel toe method or some other method. But when you come, then try to sense your attention feels into the back hemisphere, the backdrop, that enormous kind of shimmering presence that is holding all of this together. This whole cosmos. Okay, so having a sense of that process when you're moving through, the sequence is designed to move energy and to recalibrate prana in your body. And also we are touching these other vital functions like the vagus nerve. When you're moving your head like that and your eyes, you're really working at a neurological level, not only at the level of yoga. And yoga knew these things. That's why we say, Drastu Svarupe Avastanam. Drastu means, and then we see clearly. So there's a whole science of yoga using the eyes, not just what we're doing right here, but some other eye activities too. But let's come down to the floor, please. And when you come down, if you know that you need a yoga strap for things like Supta Padangustasana, which is the reclined hand to foot pose, then go ahead and get your yoga strap. If you don't need a yoga strap for that, then come right on down. And you can keep your long folded blanket where it was before. Bring a block onto your yoga mat. It's going to be helpful to you. And let's take the right knee and bring it to your chest, please. So right knee to chest. Stretch your left leg straight out on the floor. Okay, as you inhale, let the back of the body kind of drop down towards the ground beneath you. As you exhale, energize your left leg from your hip to your heel and give it a little squeeze to the lower belly. Okay, let's take the right leg straight up towards the ceiling. This is where you're going to wrap your yoga strap around your right foot, or you can hold your foot with your right hand. Once you have your strap or your hand with your foot, go ahead and open your left arm out to the side. And rotate your right knee and your toes to the right so that as you come out to the right with your leg, you're coming out and down to your right. And I'm going to change my angle a little bit so you can sense. When you come over to the right, it's not that you're going to at any point be tipping down to the right. Right, so keep the left leg stable. And we only come down to the right with the right leg as long as the left leg hasn't tipped. Right? That is an important consideration. Might be convenient for some of you to put your toes on the block there. And maybe the foot doesn't go that far, so that I just got lucky with the block. That wasn't my intended purpose for the block for you guys. Okay, let's close the eyes and let them be stable. What we can do then is sort of park the thinking mind, the judging mind, the narrating mind. Let them rest now in the simple movement of the breath, which is coming and going. Invite your feeling and sensing mind to be with your body sensations. You can imagine that we're kind of at a table with a conversation and we're asking thinking, judging, and narrating to quiet down so that we can listen to feeling and sensing. Okay, let's use the next inhale to raise the right leg back up to center. Bend your right knee, touch your foot down, and we'll take the other side. So stretch your right leg out straight. Bring the left knee in. Yeah. I think you understand the angle, so I'll come back on my straight away there. Okay, yeah. So let's take the lumbar spine down towards the floor, but don't expect that it's going to stay there. It's not meant to be a flat lumbar spine, but you can lengthen the lumbar spine and stretch out your lower back a little bit right now. Lengthen through your right heel, and let's raise the left foot up. Go ahead and wrap your strap around your foot or hold your foot with your left hand. Bring your left toes and your knee to your left. And start to come over as you go out. As you're coming down to your left, don't go past the point where you feel like your right hip is still grounded. It's not so helpful to be tipping over to your left. And you'll find that your mind, at that dinner table conversation, the thinking, narrating, and judging mind cannot quiet down very well. So we don't want to go past the point where we can have a harmonious conversation with the body. So you can raise up your kind of sensing mind, your feeling mind, and ask thinking, judging, and narrating to quiet down. Whenever you start to sense that there's a struggle in the body or there's like a little bit of striving, then probably one of your thinking, judging, or narrating mind parts came in. It's always a good time to back off from your pose and return more to sensing and feeling mind. We're going to inhale, raise the left leg up to center. And release your left foot, please. Take it down to the floor. I'd like you to bend both knees, place your feet flat on the floor, and reach for your one block, which we're going to take on the medium height like this. You could also use the flat height if that's your preference, and you'll see as we go to the pose. You want the support to be under the back of the pelvis and the sacrum in such a way as what you know that you have support for that large bone, the pelvic bone, the sacrum. And the pubic bone is going to be a little bit higher than the belly button. So your pelvis is not tipped into a back bend over the other side of the block. We might call this supported bridge pose. Supta Baddha Konasana, Supta Setu Bandhasana. Sorry, I got them all mixed up there. So in Setu Bandhasana, this would be a supported version of the bridge pose. Take the arms down, close your eyes. Let this be a little restorative pose. You're watching right now how energy gets recalibrated. If you really relax the belly, you're going to find that your body knows how to breathe you quite well. And you can learn, how does the diaphragm move in this pose? So allowing the mind to stay quiet. Press into both heels now. Lengthen your tailbone towards your knees. Engage your hip and hamstring muscles. Lift your hips now into bridge pose. Take the block out. Either use your strap or clasp your hands under the small of your back. As you come into this more active version of bridge pose, notice the quality of your mind. And ask again if thinking, judging, and narrating mind can quiet down and grant you access to feeling and sensing. And then with your exhale, slowly roll your hips back down. Release your hands and arms. Allow the spine to relax down towards the floor. Okay, so with all of that, now we can stretch the legs out. You could take that blanket that you had before and put it under your knees if you like, but you can also use the blanket to cover. Sometimes it's helpful to weight the lower hemisphere of the body, even if you're not cold, but to put a little bit of grounding on the lower hemisphere of the body. It can help the mind to stay in your body. Turn your palms face up. That's for receptivity and surrender. We put the hands face up. You could do palms face down, more for grounding. Allow yourself now to drop inside. And now we release thinking, judging, narrating mind, but we're also going to let go of feeling and sensing and just return as much as you can to that benevolent sort of background of consciousness or grace. In Shavasana, you can relax any sense of needing to know and simply allow yourself to rest in the freedom of not knowing. You're resting in consciousness or grace. You'll welcome the deep sense of quiet, even if the river goes by nearby. Rest your attention back at the source of attention itself. Welcome your body and your mind to surrender, trusting in this larger love or grace. Allow yourself to go a little deeper now in the surrender, releasing any physical or mental tension. allowing the depth to which you were able to drop in, let that be something you're going to have a felt sense of the memory of knowing this. Those two words are important in yoga. Begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes. You can bend the knees and roll to your side. Return up to your seat. Sit, make it comfortable again for both hips. Give yourself the support that makes your meditation seat non-distracting. Close your eyes. In yoga, we want to have this ability to remember, it's called smriti, this greater presence, this larger self, and also to know that presence, that's called vidya, to know it as our very self, that we are an expression of that. And so the practice is really not forgetting that. The practice not forgetting. If you sense that larger backdrop now, it supplies you with the awareness that you can rest in. As you rest your attention in that larger presence, start to have a slight curiosity or capacity to know what's in the river going by. Right? So we do have a daily life with responsibilities. Well, how would you like to relate to those responsibilities? And as you tend to those responsibilities, whatever they might be, how can you practice not forgetting this larger love or presence, which is not only your larger love and presence, but that of everyone and everything. Please raise your hands to your heart. Thank you very much for sharing your practice and your time. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me and with the community. I do hope this has been helpful. I touched on a number of things because I'm leading a yoga psychology training this weekend, and it's their first module. If you've got questions about yoga teacher training or you have questions about the practice, please leave those in the comments down below. Any comments are welcome too, of course. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would love to keep producing more content for you and for the community and raising up this kind of integration between respecting the tradition of yoga and all that it has to offer us and bringing in some of our Western understandings here in the medical and mental health fields in our country, because it seems like our industries need that kind of verification, even though yoga really needs no verification. So hit the subscribe button, please, and I'll see you in the next practice together. Thank you.